So, folks, we got to talk about ICE. And it's not going to be very pleasant. I want to just kind of upfront say content warning. You are going to see some violence. You are going to see some stuff that is going to make you blindingly angry. And, you know, my only request is that you let it radicalize you. Because this should be the kind of stuff happening in our country that moves you to start looking around your community to take action.
Trump has been studying gender his whole life. Look at this anatomical drawing sent to Epstein.
It's true, Nathan. True. Let's just start with this. I was unsure where I wanted to start this, but Gizmodo spotted this just the other day. And posted this article. DHS posts video featuring song popular with Nazi creators. Now, you all might be saying, Jack, didn't you just talk about this the other day? Didn't you just talk about how DHS was posting a video with a Michael Jackson song that uses the K slur for Jewish people? Is this not just another article about the same incident? And no, because DHS is just posting Nazi propaganda on the daily these days. So what actually is it, right? Well, here is the post: end of the dark age, beginning of the golden age, join.ice.gov. Oh, the post is blocked. That's right, I forgot. I blocked Homeland Security on Blue Sky. Fun fact, you can do that. You don't, in fact, have to just leave these institutions unblocked and able to access the data you post on Blue Sky. You can, in fact, just block them. And I do recommend that you do. Let them just scream into their own little voids on Blue Sky. But that being said, the song in question here is MGMT's Little Dark Age from 2018. And the reason why people are like, this is clearly Nazi propaganda, is related to this specific study from 2021, which recognizes different ways hatred is used in various short form video formats like TikTok. You know, how are the violent racists and bigots actually using TikTok to create propaganda for their movement? And one of the ways in which they do that, as observed in this report, and I'll link it here, you guys can read it at your leisure. One of the ways they do that is with this song. Wait, is MGMT bigots? No, they are not bigots. And in fact, the song is largely anti-bigot. Gizmodo, in fact, specifically points out these lyrics from the song. Policemen swear to God, love seeping from their guns. I know my friends and I would probably turn and run. If you get out of bed, come find us heading for the bridge. Bring a stone, all the rage, my little dark age. Right? So it's a song that is not that supportive of, conservative beliefs and values. It is, in fact, pretty anti those beliefs and values. However, basically, there is a trend among neo-Nazis and white supremacists to slow the song down to a great degree and place it over, like, showing videos of, like, American flags and then sun and rods or black sun symbols, various Nazi iconography, etc. Yeah. If any of you remember the Ron DeSantis ad that played during the Republican primary back in 2024, I think early in 2024, the Ron DeSantis campaign released like that weird Nazi propaganda video very briefly. Yeah, the sun and rod, you've probably seen it before. Here, let me pull it up. It's also called the Black Sun. A pretty well-known symbol. I think it was like used in like the SS's headquarters. So it's common for these videos to be posted, right? So Gizmodo reached out to DHS for comment, and the agency was characteristically indignant about our questions. Quote, just because you don't like something that doesn't make it Nazi propaganda, this is bottom barrel journalism. MGMT's Little Dark Age is wildly popular on both sides of the political spectrum. Go outside, touch grass, and get a grip. Read an unsigned email attributed to a DHS spokesperson. But also, The Guardian described the far-right's affinity for the song in an article from 2024. Certainly, its adoption doesn't say much for your average neo-Nazi's ability to understand English. Little Dark Age's lyrics are fairly obviously an excoriation of the Trump era American of racist political violence. So, yeah, taking a look here, it's interesting here, to say the least. In 2021, the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, the study that I shared in chat, published a report on extremist activity on TikTok. It made for thoroughly depressing reading, spiked with more moments of incredulity. Chief among the latter was the apparent popularity of the title track of MGMT's fourth album, 2018's Little Dark Age, with neo-Nazis. It was, quote, by far the most popular sound among extremist creators on TikTok, unquote. Soundtracking videos about the late American white supremacist George Lincoln Rockwell and esoteric Nazism. And so, like, yeah, basically, again, they slow the song way down, and then they show different American iconography interspersed with, like, Nazi paraphernalia. Well, you know, DHS is just posting that to recruit folks for ICE. Now, one could say this is just an innocent coincidence that ICE is posting what amounts to far-right neo-Nazi memes in order to recruit for ICE. But let's be honest here, they're just trying to recruit Nazis for ICE. That is the purpose of what they're doing here. You know, we're in a time where it's just, they're recruiting Nazis. And oh, this is the president from a press conference he held just yesterday.
I didn't have a big view on the mask, but I now understand why they should wear masks. I think it's very dangerous for them not to wear masks. They can do whatever they want. I notice some do it and some don't, but it's pretty dangerous. But I didn't.
It's super important for ICE to wear masks. They can do whatever they want. Like, they're recruiting Nazis, and then they know exactly why these people are running around in masks. What masks? No, he's talking about masks. The fact that ICE agents are covering their faces while they go about doing their jobs. We are going to start looking here at some actions ICE has been taking recently as it has ramped up its campaign against the American people, because again, of course, this was never about just undocumented people. And we have to understand that this is going to come to each and every one of our doorsteps at some point in the near future. At some point in the near future, ICE is going to be operating in your community, and you guys need to figure out with other people in your community what you guys are going to do. Who are you going to organize with? How are you going to help? It's going to be really, really important to have these response networks created and out there. Yeah, here is the TikTok video from DHS.
It's not even a dog whistle at this point. It's just straight copy and paste. The new recruitment ad features several knights lurking through the fog, and the post was captioned, "Defend your hearth and home." This is exactly the same kind of imagery that Nazis used in their propaganda. Throughout World War II, Nazis frequently compared themselves to knights to justify their invasion of Europe, showing themselves as heroes even as they sent millions to their deaths in the Holocaust. Posters like this showed Nazis as knights fighting alongside farmers against Soviets to protect blood and soil. Others that were aligned with Nazis showed knights fighting socialists. Hitler himself was even depicted as a knight in an oil painting called the Standard Bearer, supposedly unifying Germany. Now the DHS is copying Nazis not just in posters, but in action. Growing reports of violence against immigrants and minorities today echo the same violence against Jews, queer people, and other minorities in Nazi Germany. DHS also reposted the word remigrate, which is a far-right term for ethnic cleansing used in Nazi ideology. They've even used Bible verses in recruitment ads, much like what did to justify their holy war. People have been denied the right to due process before being sent to detention facilities, or worse, abroad to CCOT, which is basically a modern concentration camp. And Trump and JD...
I do appreciate this rapid fire summary of how we got here and what is happening.
fans continue to excuse this in the Republican Party. 30-year-olds in the Young Republicans group chat echoed Nazi rhetoric calling for gas chambers and declaring their love for Hitler. Dave Taylor, a Republican Ohio representative, was found to have an American flag with a swastika over it in his congressional office. Paul Ingrassia, Trump's pick to lead the Office of Special Counsel, admitted in a group chat that he has a Nazi streak. And Stephen Miller copied Goebel, chief propagandist for the Nazi Party, in a speech called "The Storm is Coming."
We are the storm.
The evidence is undeniable and mounting by the day. And if Trump and those in charge continue to excuse this behavior, all while denouncing anti-fascist efforts, well, we've seen what that leads to before.
It's an incredibly great summary. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? Because these folks want to come into our communities, right? They want to make trouble. I mean, like this is Chicago from earlier today. They are trying to come into these communities and cause chaos. They're tear gassing houses. They are violently arresting American citizens. Here's one that occurred not too long ago outside of a laundromat.
I'm not resisting. What are you doing? You're under arrest for making a threat. I never said a threat. I never said anything. I never said anything. I never said anything.
You got her, man. Hey.
I will. You let me go.
Let's go. You can record. Let's back up. Thank you.
I will if you let me go.
Fucking Nazi shits. Like, understand, if you know anyone who has joined ICE, they've joined the fucking Nazis, man. They're marching down the streets just beating up people. They're looking at... There was a story the other day, and I don't have the video handy at the moment, of a guy who flipped off an ICE vehicle, and it turned right around and came up and arrested him for it. Like, these people, they don't have jurisdiction over citizens, but it doesn't matter to these brown shirt fucking losers. You know, it doesn't matter to them. You know, it doesn't matter that they don't have the right. They look at that and they say, well, we're going to take the right. Here's Stephen Miller talking about exactly what he thinks ICE should and should not be able to do. Let's take a look.
J.B. Pritzker could be arrested. Let's talk about your willingness and under what federal authority do you arrest a sitting governor? I understand the supremacy clause. I understand interference with a federal officer. Tell me how it works that he would make himself susceptible to being arrested.
Well, the answer I'm about to give doesn't only apply to Governor Pritzker. It applies to any state official, any local official, anybody who's operating in an official capacity who conspires or engages in activity that unlawfully impedes federal law enforcement conducting their duties. So if you engage in a criminal conspiracy to obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws...
I hate this fucking guy. I hate him so fucking much.
Or to unlawfully order your own police officers or your own officials to try to interfere with ICE officers or even to arrest ICE officers, you're engaged in criminal activity. Different kinds of crimes would apply. There's obstruction of justice. There is harboring illegal aliens. There is impeding the enforcement of our immigration laws. And then as you get up the scale of behavior, you obviously get into seditious conspiracy charges, depending on the conduct, and many other offenses. So again, it depends on the action. It depends on the conduct. It depends on what is taking place. But what we need to reassure, a couple points. To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. And anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties. And the Department of Justice has made clear that if officials cross that line into obstruction, into criminal conspiracy against the United States or against ICE officers, then they will face justice.
Yeah. Now, of course, he's lying as he breathes. That immunity does not mean immunity from state charges. If ICE agents are arrested by state troopers or state police officers, that does not they are not immune from that. And my position here is that governors need to start issuing orders for police to follow these ICE vehicles out into the field and to arrest any ICE officer that is breaking the law. Any ICE officer that is making an unlawful arrest. Any ICE officer that is harming those in the community. Any ICE officer that is, negligently discharging firearms or munitions. Any ICE officer doing this shit needs to be immediately arrested. That's what needs to happen. And JB Pritzker is perhaps more so than most other governors moving down that road, but for my taste, he's moving down that road far too slowly. Okay? Far too slowly. And Nathan, thank you for the $5 dono. I don't know why the alert didn't go off. Preemptively assuring ICE of the authority really makes it feel like he's trying to embolden them to do openly evil things. No, that's exactly what he's trying to do. When he's saying, when he is saying there, hey, you have a blank check to do whatever you want. That's he's just saying, do whatever you want. Rough them up, kill them. Who gives a shit? They can't do anything. That's what he's saying. We're seeing escalations with ICE and DHS. Here's a man who got arrested.
Leave him alone!
Again, U.S. citizen.
No!
Grab my phone. Officer, if you're letting this happen, you're just as much the fucking Where am I going? We have to go to get out. You can check my papers right here.
You can see him in this video, turning to the local police officers and being like, if you let this happen, you are also part of the problem. You can see that mother turning to the officer and being like, please don't let this happen. Remember, Jack, when I said you underestimate their cruelty? If you think that I underestimate the cruelty of these Nazi fucks, you are gravely mistaken. It is enraging. And every day there are more of these incidents happening. Every fucking day. Alan Shepard, if you're thinking oh man, Jack never could have believed that police would just arrest people or stand idly by. I had hopes.
My heart breaks and I feel like crying, but also I am filled rage and a fire in TGE core of my being.
I hoped that it wouldn't get to this point. I hoped that there wouldn't be the materializing of a brown shirt movement. Hell, I hoped that we weren't going to elect Donald Trump. I did everything in my fucking power to avoid us getting to this particular point. And I'm not gonna lie, having someone be like, you underestimated their cruelty. When, I have literally for years worked to avoid this particular moment and these particular things from coming to pass. I'm not gonna lie, it really fucking pisses me off. But here's JB Pritzker saying what he is going to do, which I believe is insufficient, but we'll still take a look at what he's saying.
Everyone. It has been over a month since President Trump launched what he calls Operation Midway Blitz. It's a military-style assault on Chicago and our suburbs. In the short time, we have witnessed countless acts of harassment and intimidation and brutality and abuse.
Like, I don't know, adding a little smiley face on the end of it and a lol as people get fucking roughed up in the streets and families are ripped apart. I don't know. Makes me really angry.
Of power perpetrated against law-abiding civilians.
Will we get an update on that guy who got arrested? No. No, you won't.
Across our communities. Trump's masked agents have detained innocent American citizens and legal residents. They have used unmarked cars, a Black Hawk helicopter, automatic weapons, and battering rams to raid an apartment building filled with almost entirely, well, families and children. They've thrown tear gas and smoke grenades at peaceful crowds. Just yesterday, a Chicago alderman said a group of U.S. citizens were detained in Little Village and Cicero, including 2 of his staff members. We've seen this repeatedly, the demand for proof of citizenship without probable cause, with only the victim's skin color as a reason for the confrontations. None of this is about crime or safety. If it were, there would be coordination with local law enforcement and judicial warrants. In any other country, sending masked federal agents to intimidate its own law-abiding residents would be seen as a dangerous overreach and an abuse of power. Under normal circumstances, federal agency supervisors and inspectors general would enforce proper legal procedures and protocols and hold accountable those who violate them. But Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, and Greg Bovino have failed their oaths of office and allowed agents under their command to act unconscionably under the color of law. They have given the impression that their actions are immune from investigation or accountability. They are not. We have a duty to ensure that the truth is preserved so the public can know what their elected and appointed officials have done, and so the courts and the Congress can eventually hold people accountable. It is imperative that none of the impropriety, brutality, and harassment perpetrated upon our people goes unnoticed.
And like, this is good. It is good to document the crimes that are happening on a daily basis. But I'm not going to lie. To me, this is nowhere near sufficient. This is nowhere near sufficient in order to stop what is happening. In order to be, like, fill the breach. This is bare minimum, but, like, in my mind, like, no, you need to commit police resources to following these out-of-state whack jobs around. And if they break the law, to arrest them. Like, that's what needs to happen. And I understand that sets up the stage for potentially scary confrontation, but, like, that's what you need to do. People in your communities are getting disappeared off the streets.
Every instance of abuse, of law breaking, or violent and violations of rights needs to be documented and archived. Since this began, I have encouraged the people of Illinois to use their phones and to record everything they are witnessing and post it on social media. But we must now take this a step further and create an official public record.
My hope here is that as that public record inevitably blossoms and bulges with content, that then there becomes a demand for state-level action to curb these abuses. That is my hope, but also, like, man, I'm furious. I'm furious about what is happening in my state, in my city, and what is going to be happening everywhere. And, like, this is just Illinois. Like, this guy doesn't even speak for what's happening in my state. Like, I want protections in my state. I want the police to be fighting ICE when they come here. And Kiwi TP, we'll talk about what we can do after we finish listening to Pritzker here.
Across the board, President Trump and the federal government have dodged accountability and dismantled the institutions responsible for checking that corruption and overreach that they're committing. Trump has fired 17 inspectors general. He has installed cronies and sycophants at the Department of Justice who are willing to look the other way. His MAGA allies in Congress have enthusiastically ignored or approved of it. No hearings, no oversight, no checks and balances. And while states have limited abilities against federal immunity, we must remind everyone that this is not forever. There will come a time where people...
I'm sorry, if you think that Pritzker can't control the state police, then the state police should cease to exist. He should dissolve them.
People of good faith are empowered to uphold the law. When the time comes, Illinois will have the testimony and the records needed to pursue justice to its fullest extent. Today, I'm signing an executive order creating the Illinois Accountability Commission, a body dedicated to truth, transparency, and justice. The commission will be charged with 3 core missions. 1, creating a public record of the abuses. 2, capturing the impact on families and communities. And 3, recommending actions to prevent further harm and to pursue justice.
And like, again, maybe this is just setting the stage for some more substantial action on that third principle, but like, God, I want it sooner rather than later.
The commission will be led by truly an extraordinary group of highly qualified leaders who reflect
not necessarily empty words, like gathering information and like having a process to like collect it and use it for, you know, for example, defending folks in court. These are all good things. It's not enough to stop what is happening on the street, but this is good. It just, there needs to be more to it than this. Do lawsuits accomplish anything? I mean, the deployment of troops in Portland has been stymied by lawsuits, so you know, we'll see.
Illinois' deep expertise, integrity, and commitment to justice. With support from the Illinois Department of Human Rights, the Commission will collect testimony, hold hearings, and gather information and firsthand accounts from individuals, community members, subject matter experts, local officials, journalists, faith leaders, and organizations. The Commission and the records they gather will shine more light on the misconduct of Trump's federal agents. The Trump administration officials have demonstrated on more than one occasion that they are willing to lie to the public and the media to mask their misdeeds.
While this is nice, this should have happened months ago, back in April or March. It should have been step 2, not 69.
Well, and the worst part is Pritzker is doing more than basically any other governor. You know, like, more governors need to be stepping up in this way, and so few are.
They have already, and will continue to, cover up abuses of power, cross the legal limits of their authority, and attempt to justify dangerous attacks that threaten our people and our communities. We hope to reveal to the public in Chicago, the state of Illinois, across...
I hadn't considered that it was potentially a cover your ass situation commenter, but that also checks out.
Across the nation and around the world, the facts on the ground about what is happening here. We intend to create a detailed record of the truth. And once this all ends, people of good faith will review what this commission has gathered and will demand accountability. Indeed, people are demanding that accountability even now. I'm glad to be joined here by members of the commission who all share a commitment to justice, transparency, and the rule of law. The Honorable Ruben Castillo will serve as chair. He served as a federal judge for the Northern...
Yeah, okay. We don't need to know each and every member of this commission. Like, yes, it is good to collect information for posterity. Yes, it is good to collect that information for future prosecutions. Yes, that is all well and good. We need a way to fix what is happening now. And I'm hoping that perhaps the recommendation of this commission is going to be arrest the fuckers, but we'll have to see, I guess. And this seems to be about as good as we're going to get from a sitting Democratic governor, which is not great. The good news is that we're getting more from folks who live closer to the ground. The good news is that we are getting folks mobilized on the streets and in, places like this. Folks are getting radicalized and making a decision deep in their hearts to get involved and to help their communities in whatever ways they can. You've got people going out there and joining their homeless shelters. You got people going out there and joining their soup kitchens. You got people going out there serving food, not bombs. You got people going out there volunteering with their local DSAs. You got people out there meeting with their local Dems and radicalizing them and getting them on board with doing things like ending cooperation with ICE between their police departments or sheriffs and departments and ICE. You got people going out there and doing shit. And that fills me with a lot of hope. And one of the things I saw today that filled me with some hope is the fact that clergy are showing up. 3 days ago, 200 plus Chicago area clergy, Protestants, Catholics, and evangelicals have signed a letter decrying ICE's efforts and voicing a willingness to put their bodies on the line for migrants. And update, the Chicago clergy letter decrying ICE's actions and voicing a willingness on the part of the clergy to put their bodies on the lines to protest ICE has reached 250 signatures and now includes multiple evangelical pastors slash leaders of evangelical institutions in the area. And for those of you who are worried about the rise of Christian nationalism, getting evangelicals on the side of migrants and immigrants, the marginalized, that is a huge win. That is good, unambiguously good. Getting the local religious leadership on the side of, the people, on the side of folks who are taken to the streets, that is good because a lot of people come to being mobilized for social protest. They come to it through their churches and religious institutions, right? This is huge. And I just want to read this. Again, this comes from Religion News Service. After clergy arrests, religious pushback to ICE expands in Chicago. Representing a range of liberal and conservative traditions have signed a letter criticizing ICE titled Jesus is being tear-gassed at Broadview. Last Friday, the Reverend Hannah Cardin, a United Methodist minister in the Chicago area, stood alongside other protesters demonstrating outside the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Detention Facility in Broadview, Illinois. As a line of Illinois State Police began marching toward her and other demonstrators gripping wooden batons, footage shows the pastor with her hands raised in prayer. Officers then pushed into the protesters, forcing them back. One officer shifted his stance, reared back, and began to shove his baton like a battering ram, jamming it repeatedly, Cardin says, into her leg. A few seconds later, the pastor was pulled from the crowd and thrown to the ground. All the while, Cardin says she never stopped praying. When officers began to arrest her, they tied her arms behind her back and placed her along the curb. I said, God, please help these people to know what they're doing is wrong and help them to turn around. Let's take a look at the letter. Jesus is being tear-gassed at Broadview, an open letter from Chicago clergy. Can I use my pastoral expense account to buy a gas mask? Is a question dozens of Chicago pastors asked our church boards this month. Few of us expected to be met with this degree of hostility and cruelty at the Broadview Detention Center, as we remain committed to nonviolent action and the peaceful exercise of our First Amendment rights. Our group comprises dozens of pastors and is still only a fraction of the clergy who are showing up and standing in support. Unfortunately, peaceful actions such as prayer and communion have meant little to ICE agents. They lob tear gas, use pepper spray and bully sticks, body slam and drag protesters. One of our colleagues was hit in the face multiple times with pepper balls and rubber bullets. This is the brutality we are now accustomed to. We come offering bread and prayer, hope for justice and healing. We leave washing pepper spray out of each other's eyes. We willingly submit to these risks. What Kristi Noem and her ICE agents are doing is immoral. They aren't arresting criminals, they're arresting our neighbors. They are tearing families apart. They wait at bus stops to detain children and use them as bait to lure parents from their homes. People of all ages are in hiding, businesses shuttered, and our friends and congregants, the people we have been ordained to serve, are being taken to Broadview in unmarked vans. Despite these facts, pastors are asked by well-meaning people, those both inside and outside the church, why we put our bodies on the line. Aren't the ICE agents simply doing their job and following the law? Why do we oppose their actions? And what does any of this have to do with the teachings of Jesus? It isn't lost on us that Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. encountered those same questions. After Bull Connor aimed his hoses at protesters and King was arrested, he penned his famous letter from a Birmingham jail. In it, he says that there are just and unjust laws, and one has not only the option but the moral obligation to refuse unjust laws. We oppose the laws and orders that allow for the hunting and terrorizing of immigrant communities. It is not only the words of the King that inspire our actions, it's the teachings of Jesus. Specifically, the Sermon on the Mount is an instruction manual for nonviolent action on behalf of the persecuted. Here, Jesus blesses the poor, the meek, the hungry, the peacemakers, and the persecuted, and promises them the kingdom of heaven. We accept that following Christ's example may mean we are mocked and assaulted, oppressed, opposed, and even arrested. Jesus has guidance for this as well, saying, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you." If he were living today, we believe he might add pepper spray, body slam, and arrest you to his beatitude. Jesus further stipulates how we must treat strangers. He famously told his disciples, "I was a stranger and you invited me in." When asked what he meant by this, he said, "Whatever you did to one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did unto me." In other words, when our friends and congregants are kidnapped, forced into hiding, torn away from their families, those things are happening to Jesus in real time. As Christians, we cannot look away. We must act to stop this evil and witness to the goodness and dignity of all God's children. For us, the stakes couldn't be higher. As Matt 25:46 clarifies, those who refuse hospitality to the stranger, refuse to see Jesus in the faces of the persecuted, stand condemned. The good news, of course, is that anyone at any time can change their heart. It applies to all of us. Those who have been sitting on the sidelines can get involved. They can join us at Broadview, but there are many other ways to help. They can write to their theirship officials. I've never encountered that word before. Theirship officials, maybe their worship officials, it means to say. Go to protests in their communities, support families with food and necessities, and reach out to those who are fearful. The Trump administration and the ICE agents, too, can have a change of heart. They can set aside their indifference and cruelty. They can put away their assault rifles and bully sticks. They can give up their pepper spray and rubber bullets. They can choose not to do this, cross to the other side of the fence, and join us for communion. It's not too late to repent. In faith, and then you have so many different names.
We reached out to Yeshua ben Yosef, but he was unable to comment as he was detained by TSA at the port and detained.
Fuck. Ain't that the truth, Sake? Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. You've got the Reverend Quincy Worthington, Highland Park Presbyterian Church, Dr. Elias Ortega, President, Meadville Lombard Theological School, Reverend Dr. Lucas Hergert, North Shore Unitarian Church, Reverend Dennis R. Edwards, PhD, Seminary Dean of North Park Theological Seminary. You got the Reverend Abby Holcomb, River Forest United Methodist Church and Urban Village Church. You got Father Brendan Curran, OP, the Resurrection Project. You got Father Brian Cones, Trinity Episcopal Church. You've got the Reverend Aaron Marth, Christ Church of Chicago. You got the Reverend Christina Sinks. And I'm going to end there because there are a whole lot of other names added to this. And I don't know. This fills me with a lot of hope. You've got over 270 names now. And these are not 270 protesters only. These are 270 plus leaders. This is 270 plus people who each have congregations of who knows how many, committing themselves to this cause, to organizing. That fills me with a lot of hope. Fills me with a lot of hope to see, you know, I grew up with a lot of this stuff, you know, but it fills me with hope to see like actual Christians of moral clarity. It gives me hope. And it's also worth noting here, folks, that like we can in fact organize and win. You know, a lot of folks have been looking around and thinking, man, what can we do? What can we do when we organize locally? You know, it feels like such a big and overwhelming problem. Feels like a huge, overwhelming problem that we can't overcome. And I'm here to tell you we can. And that other communities that feel small are capable of achieving great things. Here's one example, right? This is just from yesterday. Avelo Airlines quits Bradley after seeking free rent, losing tax subsidy, and ICE protest. For those who don't know, Avelo Airlines has basically been operating as an agency of ICE. It has been one of the contracted airlines that is flying folks who have been detained by ICE all over this country. When we're talking about folks being detained and spirited away to several states away, Avelo's the airline that has been making that happen. Through hard work and protest, the fine folks around Windsor Locks, Connecticut have actually succeeded in pushing Avelo Airlines out of their local airport, out of Bradley International Airport. And so if you ever feel like, oh, I don't know what to do, you could help organize your community to protest at your local airport to make sure Avelo Airlines is not welcome and should not be allowed to function out of said airport. You can, in fact, airport by airport, lock down and deny their ability to move people around the country via this rinky-dink, second-rate airline that would fail without a government contract. Consider looking at the airports in your local area. Consider that when we're talking about this overarching issue, like problem that we are dealing with.
I can't believe they didn't call it Project No Availability.
God, all I have to say, thank you, Sake, is these folks, they're just like you and me. The folks who are protesting, they aren't special. Anyone could be them. You could be someone like that. Your mom could be someone like that. Your dad could be someone like that. Your grandpa could be someone like that. Anyone can become someone capable of forcing these airlines out. I want to point out here that we have just come off one of the largest single days of protest, if not the largest single day of protest in American history. And we are capable of using that people power to do unimaginably amazing things. And, you know, I want to leave you guys with hope that, like, you look around, and if you feel like you're isolated and alone, keep in mind that almost 300 religious leaders in and around Chicago are organizing their congregation. Neighborhoods are turning out and forcing ICE agents to retreat. People are hauling detained folks out of piles of ICE agents. Folks are shutting down the ability to transport these detainees around the country. And we each need to do our part. And we might not be able to do the entire thing, but we can, in fact, take our actions and focus them on things that are going to have wider effects. That being said, I encourage you all to get involved and start doing what you can in your local areas, and to start doing what you can to figure out what your community response is going to be when ICE shows up. They have got the funding now. They're running the advertisements. They are recruiting as many folks as they can get. And apparently they're skipping the reading tests and their competency and physical exams in order to get any damn person who signs up. But we got to have a plan, because they're going to be in a lot of our neighborhoods real soon. That being said, let's move on.
Riverboat Jack is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.